Hello, and welcome to yet another completely unprofessional interview, the only tabletop interview show where the host has almost as good a head of hair as Sean P. Kelly. So we are back again to speak with some special guests today about a game called Rustwater that's currently being crowdfunded on Kickstarter, and they also operate under the Kismet Games banner. So I would like to introduce Wayne Peacock and, Dee from Kismet Games. I'm sure that's not your last name, Dee, but we'll go with that for now. But thank you so much for coming on and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You are very welcome yet again. So yeah, to be perfectly honest, I got you on here so I can make fun of Sean throughout the whole episode because it's not fair with his Saturday morning show where.
I think he's going to do a Kickstarter on hair product pretty soon. Are you going to?
I'll back that.
Yeah, hair product and diet. No, wait a minute. It's no longer diet.
Yeah,
cherry pick, right. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's getting healthier by buying $5 cans of water now. So that's always right. A good point. But yeah, no, it's not fair being on just the chat. I don't type well. I'm on my phone when I'm doing it, and I come up looking stupid, and he just can do whatever the heck he wants on that end. But yes, we're the only two YouTubers who pretty much can write off most of our hair products for business expenses. So, all right, so welcome yet again, and so we have both Wayne and Dee here today to talk about a few things. But before we get into that, I would like to do what we normally do in this show is touch upon your gaming background. What got you into games, role-playing games, board games, whatever it was that kind of got you interested in this hobby, which, led past our youth and well into, our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s now, at least for me. Yay, solidarity. And continuing on. So, I mean, there's a good reason for that, and there's a little spark, so it's always nice to hear where the spark started. So why don't we start with you, Dee, and, give us a little insight into what got you into the hobby.
Sure. I'm Dee McKinney. Mm-hmm. I started gaming in 1980 when I picked up on a band trip the very first D&D box set, the one with the dragon on the cover. Everybody knows that one. Yeah. And I played throughout high school. And really long story short, when I got to college, I started playing Champions. That was a very sweet spot for me. I met Wayne not too long thereafter. And if there was a game system in the mid to late 80s, we probably played it. And I've just gamed over the years. When White Wolf came around with their games, we were really got into those. I met my husband at a vampire game. I know, isn't that sweet? And I've been gaming ever since. And it's a part of my life. I started writing for games in the early 90s after working on Motive, the APA. So that's pretty much it for me. Just a straight shot. So let me do the math. So that's 45 years I've been gaming.
Wow. I mean, that's quite a run. I mean, some of us, tend to, we have interruptions, in lives, some of us either go one way or another for whatever reason, families, kids, work, but we still technically tack on those missing years as like, we're never fully gone, but we're kind of, standing in the corner. But it's always amazing for me to hear people who have relatively been, just, one-on-one with everything from day one. It's, a slight jealousy, but also slightly not, because I would probably be even further in debt if that was the case. So, so that's excellent. That's excellent. So good to hear. And also lovely to hear that you met your husband at a vampire game or vampire LARP.
A vampire tabletop game.
Tabletop game. Okay, so there wasn't layers and layers of leather or anything like that involved.
Maybe there were. Okay, I'm going to shut up right now. If anybody's curious, I was a Brujah and he was a Toreador. So go figure.
Right. Oh, excellent. I mean,
there's more than that, I would think. But yeah.
I am a relatively pun intended vampire virgin. I never got into the game in the 90s. I was or I was, whereas, a lot of friends went for the more kind of alt rock gothy thing, which, was naturally the vampire. I fell into the resurgence of the hippie Grateful Dead movement. So, went in that direction. Less leather, too much ridiculous tie-dye shirts that don't fit me anymore. So
that's okay.
When is the fish? When is the fish? Role playing game coming out from you, Scott?
Hey man, as soon as I'm done with this bag of Cheetos, I'll get right on it. Stop harshing my mellow, okay? So Wayne, yes, what was your spark? What got you into the hobby?
Well, my neighbor, Mike Shapiro, who I still game with,
awesome.
We started playing in 1979. So advanced D&D in his basement during many snow days in Asheville, North Carolina. So, so it was, and I've been playing. I mean, we're the weirdos. We've been playing. we're the of the nerd hierarchy. We're like in that little tiny sliver. But yeah, I've been gaming pretty much since 1979. In fact, I think I made enemies on the BSer list because I've had a constant gaming group with people from this area since 1988.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Older than some of the people playing in the gaming group.
Yep.
Well,
yeah. So currently, we're
I would like to be in that category at some point where I'm the young one and not by like 4 months. I'm the eldest of the old. Yeah. We have, wait a minute. We have a 39-year-old.
Yeah, we do. He's the youngest. He's the
youngest of our group. Yeah. So anyway, so I've been gaming since then. At a gaming club at the University of North Carolina, Asheville. And interestingly, we had like 5 or so writers, people who wrote for games eventually came out of that little group. A lot of us wrote for White Wolf or Wizards of the, well, it wasn't Wizards. It was
Iron Crown Enterprises.
Oh, Ice. Cool.
Yeah. And Harn did, right? Rob wrote for Harn. Anyways, there's quite a few, professionals got paid. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So,
well, that's cool. It's like the Groundlings, but for tabletop RPG authors, so to speak. So,
so anyways, that was a great group. And, we played a lot of different games, I've, as you can see.
Right.
So, right.
Go on. Sorry.
No, I did some writing for White Wolf in the 90s, as well. And then quite honestly, I just had to give that up because of work. I could no longer balance between work and family and writing, thousands and thousands of words every month. So just couldn't do it.
It's not easy. I'll give, it's some of these people who kind of, these individual creators who kind of crank out these things like every couple months. And mind you, it's not 10, 20,000 words or more, but they're still doing a lot. Just, kind of getting into that myself by, doing a couple things for Miskatonic Repository.
Cool.
And I've done writing, I've went to school for, English, and I've done some things. And of course I had my 20s of, thinking I was a poet. So those things will never see the light of day, but it's one of those things where it's just, it's a lot more difficult than putting sticky notes with the concept of the scenario, because it's all up here, but taking it out and putting it onto paper, not for you to read, but for someone else to read. So I give people credit, and I can only imagine. So, so you both had mentioned that you've done freelance work for White Wolf, I would imagine. Was it primarily for the World of Darkness line, or did you do writing for some of the other games they had going on at the time?
So my first paid writing gig was for Mage 2nd Edition.
Okay.
And I did some more Mage stuff, but really where my heart was with Werewolf. And so I did a number of things for Werewolf, and that was sort of my golden age of writing, I guess. Did some work for Changeling as well. Just had a great time doing that. Yeah.
That's awesome. There's a friend of mine I know who's going to love hearing about, Changeling. There's a lot of people that are in my age who went through the World of Darkness experience, and you kind of, what's your favorite? And the majority of that I hear is Changeling. I mean, nothing against the other games, but they really, really like that.
That's awesome.
And speaking, and we'll bring him up later, but speaking of Paul Mitchener, author of Liminal, we'll bring that up later because Dee's a big fan. You're welcome, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Paul had the 20th anniversary, of Mage Edition, the big old Bible.
It's big.
And I bought it, it's huge. And it came over in Gen Con 2022 with, the rest of our friends from the UK. And, brought it going, okay, this is interesting. This is kind of literally my first experience other than paging through the original vampire, rose on the marble background. So I'm like, great. So I sat down, opened up page 1, like, okay, this is interesting. Page 2. About page 89 to 150, I'm like, where's the game? There's a lot of lore, a lot of lore to sift through. But
in all fairness, it was Phil Burkott who gave me my first paid writing job. So thank you, Phil. I appreciate that.
That's awesome.
I ran a Mage game for 5 years,
something like that.
Yeah, and Phil, the line editor was in my game, and awesome. So it was fun. We had some really good times playing that game. So that game has always been probably of the line, that's the one I enjoyed the most. But I did most of my work for Changeling and Hunter the Reckoning. Those are the 2 games I wrote for them on. Yeah.
Oh, I actually, I just played Hunter for the first time, the newer version, with people. That was the first official White Wolf-ish game that I had played. I enjoyed it. It was a good time, but it's funny because the people involved who were running the new edition, all they spent, the time after the game was done was complaining about how better the previous version was, or whatever the thing may be. So it's just like,
wow,
just run that one, I guess. Yeah. But no, pluses and minuses. You know how it goes. I think it was like the system's better, but it's missing some crucial lore, and I'm just like, just right over me. But over you. But I mean, that's excellent. Now, what I was secretly hoping is that both of you said that you did work for Street Fighter, the role-playing game, but I guess my quest will continue on.
I owned a copy of that, and I cannot put my hands on it. But yeah, I did own a copy of that. Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, no,
I think I was like Stuart Week loved playing that game and just decided I'm going to get the rights to it and do it anyway.
I could hear that conversation of like, hi, I'm, representative from White Wolf. We're interested in licensing Street Fighter for role-playing games. Just, whoever's on the other end going, are you serious?
Yeah, right.
Okay. So, well, that's excellent. So it's, there's, I know people who watch the show. There's obviously no shortage of fans, of the World of Darkness, both, back in the day and in these days. So, definitely, if you are fans, search out their works and grab them, take a look at them. I know, a lot of their products, or some of them are available on drive-thru, the older stuff.
Almost all of the stuff is on drive-thru. It's amazing excellent. What you can get there. It's put on demand. Although I've lost the thread on who owns what now? They're like Onyx Path
I don't know.
versus
Yeah,
who's printing Vampire Fifth now? Isn't it like a German company? I'm sorry, I'm being an idiot.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, all I know about the new edition is Kenneth Haidt
Modiphius.
is part of it. Modiphius, yeah,
That's
Modiphius,
it,
but also
Modiphius.
Onyx Path. But Modiphius isn't involved quite anymore. I don't. Yeah, that's the confusing thing of it all. But still, it's excellent game, and I know it's obviously popular because it's carrying on to this day. So hopefully people will enjoy it, for some time to come. So yes, so that's excellent. I love hearing stories like that. Every once in a while I'll get what was your first game, and it was just like D&D.
Right.
Anything else? It was fun. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Do the sound of the eagle crying in the back. And
see, if I was professional, I'd have all that stuff set up.
Right.
But,
There you go.
I've got jobs too. So
right.
So the reason why, well, the primary reason why we have you here is to talk about your Kismet Games current offering called Rustwater. Which just dropped on crowdfunding a few days ago, and I believe yesterday-ish or so, or as previous to that, it finally hit its pledge with 22 more days to go. So that's excellent. So a round of applause, and press the applause button if I had one. So for those who don't know what Rustwater is, I think the important thing is to have you two talk about it. And let myself and the others know what Rustwater is, what's it about, and what does the game offer to the for new players.
You want to talk about this? Oh, okay.
Do you want me to talk about the pandemic, maybe, or do you want me to talk about? Go ahead.
Why don't you talk about the setting some, and then I'll talk about the game system, and I'll jump in at that point.
Okay.
So just to give your viewers just a little background, we started this kind of noodling on this product right before the pandemic, and it was really nice. It gave us something to work on when we couldn't meet in person. We met a lot on Zoom.
Yeah.
We gamed a lot on Zoom, but the foundation of Rustwater is just imagine 17th or 18th century Amsterdam or Copenhagen, any sort of city that's on the sea that relies on shipping in like the 17th, 18th century context. And then imagine a huge cataclysm comes. Okay. And what happened were these waves of 4 curses brought by these creatures called the Others. Now, we kind of leave it vague what the Others are. You could think of them as extraplanar aliens. I guess that's the best way to put it. But the curses were terrible. The first one was called Red Thorn, and it just meant these dreadful red, prickly, barbed plants started eating through concrete and brick and everything. And so it was destroying sort of that physical structure of the world. Then there was the elemental riot, where machines came to life. Their essence sort of woke up and sort of turned against humanity. Then there was the monstrous nativity, where humans and sometimes other creatures like a horse or a cow or whatever started giving birth to elves or dwarves or sirens or harpies or you name it. But finally, there was the curse of the wordworms. And this is what I think makes Rustwater sort of a unique game and a unique system, is the curse of the wordworms caused a sort of a plague of both the pages and the eyes, so that written words are essentially gone. So if we're living in the setting and one of us happened to open a book, the book would catch on fire, our eyes would fill full of worms. You can't read. Reading is gone. Writing is just gone. It's gone, gone, gone. And it really, I think, comes to light when the player's like, okay, well, here's my plan, and I'm going to leave a note for the other players. I'm like, no, you're not. Oh, I'm not, am I? And I'm like,
no.
Nope. And it just sort of goes from there. So it is sort of a post-apocalyptic setting, but an 18th century post-apocalyptic setting,
right?
Not a modern one. So I will pass it over to Wayne with that.
Yeah, so we want to do something, that was unique and that had a lot of flavor and is leaning on the story more than the mechanics. Although, I mean, the mechanics are important, but to both of us, but we really wanted something that was rich and that we could noodle on and enjoy thinking about. And, we came up with the idea of the curses, and then we really have just leaned on that. It's one of the first things we go over in the game. All magic are tied to the curses, to the point that there may be individual spells, but each spell is tied to a specific curse.
Okay.
Each magical effect is tied to a curse. Even the kind of semi-magical powers that some of the characters may possess are tied to the curses. So, what that means is that, like, for example, the sorcerer class in our game, which is called the Tovanar, they must be physically affected by a curse to be able to use magic.
Okay. So, and to learn new magic.
In fact, if you cured them, their magic would go away. So they must always be in this kind of, push their luck mechanic where they need to be around the magic of the others. They need to be exposed to it so that they can actually use it. Now, ostensibly, it's to combat the others. That's historically, that is what has occurred. But but if you are Tovanar and you delve too deeply into that, you do become more powerful. But you also, when you lose control of your magic, you might just snap, and now like in Call of Cthulhu, you could just become part of that mythos and and your character sheet to the GM. And in our game, we decided to call that stigma for a very particular reason, is that it is visible, and the society, human society, also is in this place where they can't completely get rid of stigma because the reality has been rewritten around them. But at the same point in time, they're wary of it. So if characters gain a lot of stigma for going out and adventuring, that's the name of the game, when you come back into the city, you're probably going to be examined. And we decided for that reason for that and other reasons, to make stigma not hit. Well, sorry, it's hard to hide it. It's like half of your face is chitin,
Okay.
Or you have a mantis claw instead of a hand. So and I guess for some people that may seem a little gonzo, but for us, we wanted to make it something that your character is going to have to deal with.
Yeah. And there are just certain things that the Tovanar, they are the only people who can do certain magic that is necessary to the world. So again, in a lot of games, it's a balance. It's a nice balance, and it brings some, ethical questions. And do I push this, and knowing I might get stigma, but I do it to save my buddy? Right. I love that kind of thing in games. Yeah.
And so I'm very fortunate. My daughter has a master's degree in disability studies. So one of the things we did is I asked her to, I asked her to do, I guess this is bad.
You asked her.
Yeah. This is my nerd Nepo baby. I don't know. I asked her to do a read on it for us because we wanted to make sure that we were being upfront about this, but that we weren't being completely insensitive about people who may be dealing with disability issues as well. So,
yeah, you don't want to recreate the disability issues from the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So you want to be, well, a hell of a lot more sensitive than that. But no, I get it. It's those, these games that deal with like, corruption and body dysmorphia and mutations and things like that. It's, certain thing, obviously, I'm growing tentacles out of my neck. It's like, that's great. But when you start touching on certain things that, cancerous growths or certain things like that. You just need to be somewhat aware of it. I mean, you can still have those things, but sometimes terminology can change.
And you need to just address it up front and say, hey, this is like, for example, in our description of the monstrous nativity.
Mm-hmm.
So in the game, it hasn't been evident so far. The others are really rewriting the reality of our world into something of their own.
Right.
So a lot of what is happening is not, it's not a disfigurement. It is this rewriting of things.
Mm-hmm.
And people may take it negatively, but when I came up with the idea of the monstrous nativity, we wanted to describe it. We also were like, look, this isn't about birth defects.
No.
Right.
This is this is this is magic, make believe stuff. But we just wanted to address that kind of stuff. So again, we wanted to make sure that we were. There's certainly people who may decide not to play the game, and for reasons, and we just want to be upfront with that.
That's, I mean, you both being, used to and playing and writing within specifically horror type games like the White Wolf and whatnot. So you are well aware that games, even that aren't exclusively horror, but even games that have horror elements, they're never going to be for everyone. But there's only so much you can do in regards to these horror games before you start, watering them down to where you just got to go, hey, this is kind of like, this is the cutoff point where this game's just not for you. And that's perfectly fine.
It's like a good lines and veils session at a game. It's just, you just got to be up front. Don't try to hide anything. Don't try to excuse anything. Just here's where we are. This is what this is about. And, we hope you like it. And that's, So,
and I totally respect people who, have those boundaries for whatever reason and want to respect them. But there's also something to be said for like someone like me. It's like, I want crab claws growing out of my eyes, out of my ears, intestines flowing out of my nose.
We've got a game for you.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with that. Give it to me all. I'm a big fan of like, in games where magic has consequences,
this is it.
But also games that deal with things like corruption, specifically the one that comes to mind is, games like Warhammer, but other things where, there's games like, like Cult, and, things that deal with even, what is it? Is it, even from the fantasy point of view, Shadow of the Demon Lord, where there's the corruption of the shadows within the game and everything. Those are fun because, like you said, Dee, it introduces these kind of moral quandaries that that may not exist if they're not part of the game mechanic. Because if they're not there, it's murder hobo central for the most part.
Right.
But if but if you have these certain consequences that can negatively affect your character or even temporarily boost them. And then, you fall off the deep end. It's like you said, it's a balance. And those games are always the best because, there's always going to be a situation that comes up where, specifically as a GM, where the players get together and they start talking about, this and this and this and that, and, the inevitable outcome. And you just get to, as a GM, just sit back and enjoy the ride because it's so much fun.
Like one of the ways we did this is that in the game there is so we use, it's a D20 mechanic. It's a roll under system.
Okay.
Do you mind me diverging for a minute to
absolutely.
We so it's a roll under system. So you have a group of stats or skills that we just call them attributes, and you're trying to roll under the score. And we use the the venerable advantage idea except for in this case, you actually want to roll a 1. instead of roll high, and to just kind of, submit the power of the others. You could always get advantage by calling upon the others.
Oh,
but you can't do it quietly.
Oh, so it's
so your character must, in a clear, strong voice, call upon the others for aid.
Yeah.
And then you have to then there's a roll, and you may get stigma from doing that as they embrace you.
Yes, come to me.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's no hiding it, Steve. Sorry, everyone knows.
Right. Yeah, you can't whisper
knows.
it. You got to scream it. It's which has come out a couple times in our games with the characters have like really, the backs up against the wall, and they were like, "Don't forget, I know you guys are rolling with disadvantage right now, but you could change all that and roll with advantage if you just call upon the others for their aid." So yeah,
no one wants to be the first one,
right?
But yeah,
right.
And before, I just want to make a quick correction here, so I don't have to do it in editing. It wasn't Shadow the Demon Lord I was referencing; it was Simba Room. So you can stop typing now.
Right.
That has the corruption shadow mechanic.
Yeah, that's a good game.
Someone's going, that's Simba Room, whatever. But yeah, so
the real version or the 5e version?
This is the real version. Yeah.
Sorry.
No. No, but it's okay.
They're both fine. I don't know.
So there's attributes and are there skills associated with this, you said? And are the skills essentially a bonus to the roll, or are they a separate number that you need to roll under also?
So we went through multiple game systems trying to come up with what we thought fit.
Right.
And then I'd always loved the Black Hack, and then two games came out from Kobayashi, Fleo, and then Black Sword Hack.
Yes,
and
beautiful.
And one of those was under Creative Commons license, and so I was like, "Oh, damn! Wait a minute!"
Yeah.
And so we went and looked at Black Sword Hack and Fleo, and we played the part. I always say that this is a riff on Black Sword Hack, because that was the last of these games that come out. And it's definitely added on to all. It's, there's bones of Fleo and Black Sword Hack as well as Black Hack, of course.
Right.
And we played with the common OSR 6 stats, and it just wasn't really working for us.
Okay.
And so we were trying to figure out what to do. And then we had all these archetypal characters, and we just started writing down what is our definition of them? How do we describe them if we just forget the game system? And we came up with, I think there were originally like 20 stats, and we ended up collapsing that down, but we still have 12 stats. And quite honestly, they are somebody would read them and think of them as characteristics, and some of them as skills. But the more we played, we're like, that's actually an arbitrary decision upon somebody's part.
Yeah,
this isn't. None of this is really mimicking reality.
Yeah,
and we just want a simple game that tells the story. So we just left them. So we have, like an agility stat, and we also have a stat called nautics, which just covers your understanding of like the sea and piloting your boat, and we have a skill that is philosophy, but it's like natural philosophy. So it's early science. And that's where we ended up landing. After, many iterations, this worked for us. And so it is not exactly Black Sword Hack or Black Hack, but because of the roll under mechanic, you can just file that name off and put another attribute there. It works fine.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I've always, for years, kind of tongue in cheek made fun of the necessity of most people in this hobby to label everything and exclusively, reference everything specifically, and is it a stat? Is it a skill? And it's just like, and at a certain point, you're just like, I don't care if it's called the bear shits in the woods. I know what it does,
right?
So it doesn't matter what the the qualifying moniker is for it. Just tell me what it does, so I know what to roll.
What is the rating on that? And then what is your roughage rating?
Right. Right. That's fine. But yeah, it's and there will be, of course, insert the actually Sean picture here, but there will be people who will go, well, that's not an attribute, it's a skill. That's not a skill, it's an attribute, so on and so forth. And it's just that's the thing that comes with age. Because I mean, my son's in his teens, and he's got his group of friends, and they will have discussions about certain things, whatnot, and the wheel continues to turn, and they're arguing about shit that I don't even care about anymore, and I just laugh and go, well, that's how it is there. So when people, when you see the people screaming about certain things, it's just like, are you 14 also?
Yeah.
And for me, having the character archetypes
mm-hmm.
be a little more than I mean, have some dimension to them. So one of my favorite archetypes, I kind of had to push on this one because I really wanted it. It's called the Fusilier.
Okay.
Well, it's essentially a musketeer, but by gosh, my Fusilier is going to have a damn gun. It's not just a sword. He's got a gun too, because that's what musketeers freaking do. They have muskets.
Right.
Okay, sorry. I have feelings. But I happen to be blessed by having a lot of friends who are HEMA fencers. And
mm-hmm.
I look at what they do, and a lot of it is natural philosophy and game theory and things
mm-hmm.
like that. And I'm like, these people need to be more than just a gun and a sword, because
fighter, mage, thief, wizard. Yeah.
Or fighter, exactly. I want them to be more than that. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And it is one of those things where, I enjoy things like that. I mean, probably one of the most interesting things that I read in a while when it comes to archetypes is, I don't know if you're familiar with the game, Heart, the City Beneath.
No.
There's one of those things where just like, all expectations are thrown out the window. And even if something may be named specifically, it doesn't necessarily mean what you used to think it means. So,
right.
Yeah. So I enjoy like that, but I also, enjoy not only, hey, that's great if it's called Fusilier, but, I've seen games where they'll have these beautiful names, but when you look at the character, it's still just, warrior, mage, cleric, wizard. And so it's like, so it's good to hear that it goes deeper than that with these archetypes. So besides the two, Fusilier and is it Tovanar, you have, what do you have? So there's 4 more pre-gens. So what are the other 4? Just real quick, so everyone knows.
Tinker Witch.
Tinker Witch. Okay, cool.
So the Tinker Witch is, I'll give it try to do a little tiny thing. So remember we said that one of the curses was called the elemental riot, where inanimate objects to some extent woke up.
Yes.
And the ones that affected humanity the most were the machines and things that they used, right?
Right.
So it's only been, and the other thing is, I also, and this is personal, I don't mean to harsh anybody's joy,
mm-hmm.
but I hate the frickin' 10,000 year, 80,000 year, spans of time in a lot of fantasy games. I just find it less and less credulous. And the other part that I really don't get is a lot of times there's just like this really neat thing that occurred in the history of your setting. And it was like, 30,000 years ago. And I'm like, why? I mean, so the calamity that felt was 100 years ago. So it's like the generation is just like has died out, but there may be a few people that are, were babies during that time, that are still around. And the middle age and older people, their parents were in that other age, which we just call the relic age now. That before time. So the Tinker Witch are people that developed a semi-magical ability, so it's going to be related to the elemental riot, to actually speak to machines. So now in this setting, you might have like a little tiny, steam boiler rig in a boat. Okay, it's not very common, but you could have something like that. It doesn't matter how well how clean the machine is, how well your coal or your fuel you put into it. Since it is by definition sentient to a degree, it will not work unless it wants.
Okay.
So the Tinker Witches are both mechanics that have learned to speak with them, and they call the language is called Sprach machine, and it doesn't have words like people would understand. It's like noises and touching the polishing,
squeaks and
groans and stuff like that. But they learn how to speak with those elemental spirits that are in the machines to negotiate with them to get them to do stuff.
That's cool.
So if the rudder isn't working on your boat and you fixed it and it still won't work, then you call the Tinker Witch to come in and have a conversation with it to find out what's really the matter and what do we need to do to get this shit solved.
Oh.
So that's one of our classes. That's one of the player character types. I'm sorry, I wanted to hit them as we got them.
No, absolutely. Now, like I said, we're here to talk about Rustwater, so don't, anything and everything you want to bring up. Sorry, Dee, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to rattle off the remaining ones, and so we could talk about each of them. There's the Red Cap, the Custodes, the Harbinger. I'm trying to remember the ones in the Profiteer Captain.
Profiteer Captain.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it, I think, right?
The Relic Hound.
Relic Hound and the Tinker Witch. And the Tovenar, sorry. The Red Caps are fighters. They organize themselves into unions during the Four Curses. They are pretty much fighters, but they're clever too.
And they're part of the people that rose up to defend their cities. Mm-hmm. So they wear red caps, but think of that more like the peasants manning the barricades in the French Revolution.
Right. Yeah. I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Exactly what we were thinking about.
And they're also, they have a magic of their own, and they can draw, using the idea from the mythology, they can draw strength from, soaking their caps in the blood of those that they have dispatched. But they're kind of like radical unionists, urban berserkers, I guess is the best.
That works.
Yeah,
that works.
The Custodes, I think, are really interesting characters. They are agents. They work for a group of people they're an agency called the Cenotaph. And the Cenotaph is the one place that there is some reading still going on. And that's because the people who work the Cenotaph are blind.
So they can't be affected by the curse.
They can't be affected by the curse. The Custodes have a temporary ability. They can put on a blindfold and temporarily read a book. That's their special power. Now, they can't read like War and Peace. We're talking like a chapter book or something like that.
Right.
The Harbinger, because there are no written words in this world, the Harbinger... Hey, Max. The Harbinger...
That's my dog telling me it's time to feed him.
It's okay. I'll put in a fart sound there to cover it up.
Let me lean. Doug, sorry, it's terrible.
Sorry, Dee.
Oh no, I hear worse on Wednesday nights. Trust me. The Harbinger has eidetic memory, and so they serve as record keepers. they keep laws, they memorize contracts, and so on and so forth. They're a pretty cool character class. And in fact, when we were writing them, like, is anybody really going to want to play this person who memorized this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And I think every playtest, somebody's wanted to play the Harpooner.
Every single playtest, somebody is like, "Oh, wait a minute!
I want to do that."
They could memorize stuff, and they're like living documents. And I'm like, "Yeah, they're like lawyer document." And they're like, "Yeah, I'm there." Like,
yeah,
okay, well.
I can think of 4 people off the top of my head that would jump on that without question.
Yeah,
so yeah.
Right. The relic hounds are, I mean, because of all the ruins from the present age, they're the adventurers,
Okay.
That is our catch-all to basically include, the trope of the adventurer. Okay. Mostly thief-like, but
right.
Kind of jack of all trades.
Right. Exactly.
Yes.
Roguish jack of all trades. They're the scavengers maybe, or something such as that. The ones that venture out where others may not.
Right. And they have a lot of, contacts to sell off goods and things like that. So
profiteer captains, they are the one character archetype that starts with a ship. It is in Hawk. They don't own it, but they have a ship and they have a lot of seafaring abilities because, hello, this is a coastal game. It's set in the water for the most part. And so that's a fun character to play. I had a great play test where a woman who had never actually role played before took on that role of the profiteer captain, and she just ran with it, and it was really really fun.
So think merchant prince, that kind of thing where they're they're all about making money and trying to get their ship out of Hawk,
right?
With a little swashbuckly skill thrown in,
right? The other thing is that it's easy enough to have the other player characters, take on the role as crew members, because in this society, it's
everybody knows the basics.
Much like most people know how to drive a car in America. Everybody knows how to do work a boat. Basics. Put up a single sail, know how that works, know how the rudder works. Yeah. Fly a square knot, whatever.
So one of the questions that I have is the Kickstarter currently is not for the full game. It's for a quick start. So I mean, forgive me if for not seeing anything like this before, but I have not. So I'm curious, what the reasoning behind doing a Kickstarter for the quick start, and what's the goal? Once obviously you funded, and that's fantastic. So, what are the steps from here? Because obviously quick start alludes to another game, a full game coming soon. So,
yeah, I'll tag that one. So the actual full game is written and laid out, all 242 pages of it.
Sure.
It's got original art. It's got a stunningly beautiful cover by an artist named Pavel Shiplin. Okay. But we actually we know neither of us are business people at all. And I will just say one of the most challenging parts of this has been the marketing. It's very, very hard. It's very time consuming.
Yeah.
And I'm not good at it. I'm just not. And anyway, that's neither here nor there. But we wanted to build our client base. We wanted to get a really strong list of people on our Discord, on our website, on our mailing list, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that when we launch the big core book, which we hope will be quite soon, we will have a strong base from which to do that. Okay. And I'm just going to throw a little spoiler here for people who are eager maybe to see more. The full book has ship combat rules.
Ooh.
It has a nice bestiary, which could transfer itself over to other Flayo, Black Sword, Hack, Black Hack, Black Sword, Hack Sword, whatever we're going to call it these days.
Right.
It has a lot of stuff in it. And so, but we do need to, for those of you who are out there starting up small companies, you don't have a lot of capital. You have to invest some of your own money from the get-go. I think the goal for our Kickstarter is just to, number one, make sure our product becomes known so that when we launch the biggie, we'll have a fan base.
Right.
And number two, at least try to meet some of the preliminary expenses we've already acquired.
I mean, the big ones do it. I mean, that's kind of what Kickstarter's become for them. I mean, there's I won't name names here, but there is a every once in a while you'll see a Kickstarter like, why aren't they just publishing this? It's because they're doing exactly what you're doing. They're wanting to see if they have a customer base for this, and if they don't, then they just
dodged a bullet.
They just dodged a bullet. Now, there's the argument that's not what Kickstarter is for, and that's for another time. But hey, if they're going to use it that way, I don't see any issue with anyone doing it to seed the garden, so to speak, to see if something will grow. But that's not saying that this being a quick start. It's not like a 5-page thing you pick up on Free RPG Day. You get there's quite a few things to offer here. Let's see here. There's one of the higher end ones, which again is very affordable in my opinion, especially with with the print. There's you're going to get a printed book, which I believe is how many pages?
About 40
pages.
It's right here.
Yeah. Okay. You're going to get a color map insert with that, which is always fantastic. Obviously, there's the PDF version comes with that, and then there's also an adventure.
A second adventure.
Second adventure associated with which is great, because that's one of the things about whether it be a quick start, or a starter set or whatever the thing may be, is if one of the better ones that have been out there, is something that provides you something more to do other than just one thing,
right?
Which is always good. And I'm not just saying beyond the adventure, but they give you enough to, if you want to do something with it while you're waiting for the main product to come out. And sometimes it's great because there's enough there to keep you rolling, and then other times you're like, hey man, it's been a year. And, I've kind of wrung this quick start dry, and when's the full core coming out? And they're like, I don't know, 2 years, 3.
No.
But no, it's, but also that's also good news for those watching that, to hear, that the game pretty much, is done and good to go. I would assume that, you're going to, everything is never 100% done, but I'm sure there may be a couple things to touch upon. And I guess the other thing is I mean, I didn't see anything in here, and you said you had a Discord, and I haven't really done anything there, but with this, are you then also looking for feedback, from the people
Absolutely.
who are playing?
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
Dee is right. The core book has been laid out. It's even been edited, but we by Tim Gray, who's did a great job for us.
I know
Tim.
Tim.
Yeah, he did a wonderful job for us.
I liked him.
And even though, I mean, there's the idea of adding on once you've edited a book is it causes some pain until we send it off to be printed. My feeling is if we can fix stuff, or if we have to change something major, we absolutely do it.
Sure.
So I'm going to be play testing the adventure that we added on called the Cresting Pearlite. I'm going to be play testing that in the next couple of months to get it finished. The quick start is finished. The only and we actually offered it as a PDF. Yeah. So I'll just say this. We offered this we did this as a PDF on drive-through.
Okay.
And we had pretty good pickup, but since I was headed to PAX Unplugged, I just went ahead and had like 10 copies printed off.
Cool.
And essentially every person that I handed it to was like, "Oh, this is freaking awesome. Can I buy a copy?" And I was like, "Oh, that would have been a really good idea." I mean, again, I was just being dumb. Anyway, so then we got back home, and I was actually working on something else for Zine Quest this year.
Okay.
With another illustrator creator who goes by Wilderweb, who lives in this area, and he and I were talking about this other thing that I wanted to do some work for. And I had just handed him this copy, and he's looking at me. I mean, quite honestly, Scott, he's looking at me like a big
You're an
damn
idiot.
idiot.
Mhm.
And he goes, "Wait, you have something done. Why don't you just do this?" And I was like, "Oh." So I hope I'm not damning myself with this, and I was like, "Yeah, you're right, man. I probably should just do that." And pretty much everybody that I said, "Hey, would you?" I mean, I know I was like, even some in my friends, I was like, "You think this is a dumb idea?" They're like, "No, man, we love that thing. You really should." And I'm like, "Okay, fine." So I talked to D, and D was, of course, enthusiastic. So, but even having said that, I put a copy of a full character sheet in this version, but our quick start has pre-gens, and it's setting, adventure, and then pre-gens, which are not in our download. And again, I put the copy of the character sheet in there because, like a lot of people who read role-playing games, I find the character sheet and I put my thumb in that. And then as I read the game, I flip back and forth, right?
Right.
To understand what I'm doing. But then when I did this, I was like, oh, wait a minute. I really would rather have a bigger map of the city. And I would rather maybe do some more explanation about the city that is the first part of the adventure. And I was trying to figure out where I could do that. And I realized, oh, wait a minute, I have 2 pages. So I'm taking these out because you can just download the pre-gens and look at the sheets anyway. So, anyway.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we're really, I think the book is really nice. We've got nothing but praise for it. And but the new version for this Kickstarter is different than the one we were selling earlier.
Oh, that's just fantastic. I have found, talking with many people over the years, and even myself, those points on the hill that you'll die on soon fade away the moment you actually start creating games.
Right.
Where
oh my gosh,
yeah, and then suddenly it's
okay. So I'll go again. Someone may kill me for this.
Sure.
Is that this? I love front matter, stuff that's printed on the cover. And it was so much easier for me to cram, get the information in here by putting all the tables on the front and back,
Right.
But because of that, I had a friend say, "Where's the index?" And I was like, dude, I know we all complain about indexes, but having written a 200-page book, it's freaking hard. It is no joke to try to put that together. I spent weeks trying to, for the full version, trying to get
the big version.
And I still don't know if I've got it all done, so we'll see.
I mean, you can leave it out, and then we'll put you in the Kevin Symbieta Hall of Fame.
Right. But yeah, just to show you, sorry to disappear off screen.
That's all
this
right.
Is the
That's the full
this
version.
is the book.
Yeah.
So it's already illustrated and laid out, and so
very nice. Yeah, no, and again, it is one of those things where you just why isn't there an adventure in this core rule book, or why isn't the character sheet here, or here? And then suddenly you start doing it, you're like, oh, that's why. I don't want it there either. Those little things, and it's consumer. So
right. I mean, there's the big debate about whether quick start has to have character generation in it, and I totally understand where people are coming from, but I'm like, as somebody who's actually trying to put the book out, and I'm like, that would add another 40 plus pages to my book, and I still wouldn't have everything in it because anyway. So but I get it. I totally get it.
And frankly, I want to reserve some really good stuff for the main book.
Yes. No, I agree. I mean, I'm of the opinion, I'm not the ones who expect it. It actually is kind of a shocker when I see it in there. But usually it's included with, ones that for really are more than like a start, it's more like a starter set,
Starter
like
set,
a quick start. But then again, a lot of quick starts, 40 pages or so is around the same, but there's some that say, hey, here's a quick start. And like I said, it's literally maybe 15 pages from a free RPG thing. It's just like, I need more. I need a little bit more to actually quickly start this. I'm doing the work.
Yeah, right. This is like there's no start in this.
That's the non-start.
So expectations. I mean, I don't want to throw you under the bus or anything, but as far as this is done in 22 days. Do you have an estimate date that the full game might come out, or as far as maybe the actual Kickstarter for that might be coming? And if you don't, that's fine. I'm just curious if you do.
We don't. We know it's probably a year to 18 months because D is Wonder Woman. She is in an orchestra, does this writing, has a full-time job, is a mom still, and anyways, so she has an incredibly full life, and there are times of the year where were we to do a Kickstarter, I would be doing it all by myself.
Yeah, and we don't want that.
No.
So that is trying to that time frame for her may be summer.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it might be possible for us to launch this again, another one in February,
right?
We may be sane and wait until June next year, because just because of timing.
That's fine. I mean, it's same boat. I mean, like I said, I'm dipping my toes into not one but two Miskatonic situations for the Miskatonic repository. One on my own, and other a group effort. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where we had a meeting the other day of when is this supposedly going to be due, and it was maybe December, and I'm like, oh, thank God. Because I was walking this going for him going, I don't know, maybe 60 days. It's just like, oh, I can't do that. But no. And then the other one on my own, that's one where I have to rely on myself to motivate, make me work. Whereas the group one, that one's a lot, thank God for D, Wayne, because
I do.
Like you said, it's if I had to do it on my own, it's going to be the same thing. But it's easier in the group dynamic to keep people motivated and focused, and bug you and all that stuff. So it's nice having that support, on both sides.
What my hope is that we can spend, I'm just spitballing here, the next 8 to 12 months really, really building up our fan base, our contacts, so that when we launch that full Kickstarter for that full book, we're going to get a lot of our supporters right on board from the first couple of days. That's my hope.
Okay. If you're now, this is entirely up to you, Wayne, and we can discuss it in more detail after the show. But if one of the things that you might be interested in to start spreading the word is maybe you or D would want to maybe pop on Titterpigs, and if you want to run a game for us and a few other people,
we would love to do that.
And then, because I mean, we enjoy having the APs on the podcast, and it's also easier because it's just audio. So some people who might be camera shy, who really don't want to run a game, when you say, oh, it's just audio only, they're like, oh, fantastic, so and whatnot. So it makes it somewhat, it makes it easier in that regards. And then I don't have to edit video. Jesus.
I feel your pain.
Well, I've been told, again, the classic, I have a face for radio, so yeah, I could do that.
So we're running a little short on time, but a couple things. So another thing I want to ask both of you is, one of the things that when we were talking was, you brought up a conversation that we had a while ago talking about APAs. And so again, I would like to take a moment and maybe as a separate episode, invite the both of you back on to talk about that if you're interested. That way we can devote, a good amount of time to focus on that, talk about them, discuss some of them. I can show you how completely uninformed I am about them, but I still have opinions, and and go from there.
The internet.
No, that's yeah. So I mean, it's but I really wanted to get the details of Rustwater so people can start looking at the game, deciding if they want to check it out, and if so, this will be their entry point. But before we do go, I do want to talk about something that we had discussed earlier that I found out. If you have a few moments, if that's okay, just want to talk briefly on Dee's love of the game Liminal. Now Liminal is written by Paul. Well, we call him Dr. Mitch, but Paul Mitchener. It's a fan. It's for those who don't know, it's essentially how would you call it? Like an urban fantasy, urban horror type game. It's, for lack of a better term, it's kind of, World of Darkness, but not UK centric in most regards. And a wonderfully simplified rule system and a lot of fun to play, beautifully illustrated, and really touches on a lot of things where there's a little bit of World Darkness, there's a little bit of Rivers of London, there's a little bit of can't believe I'm drawing a blank, wide brim hat, staff on the cover, Butcher is the author, Jim Butcher. Dresden, Jesus Christ!
Sorry.
Oh my God! I just squeezed that earworm out.
Wait a minute. Why did hat?
Getting old sucks. I mean, it's just
I hear you, brother.
And the fact that I just remembered that means I probably have forgotten my daughter's birthday. So it's a trade-off. No, I'm joking, but no. So but you had put in your bio that you're a big fan of it, and I'm friends with Paul, or Dr. Mitch as we call him. Paul was one of the people who provided an outlet during the pandemic called the Mitchener Arms, and it was a lifesaver for many, many, many people who were obviously on lockdown and quarantine, but it gave them an outlet to essentially just speak with people, remain social, talk about games and everything, or even just sit there quietly while other people were just to be a part of something. So it's something that always grateful for him doing that, and it still carries on to this day, but it's one of those things where I still don't think Paul kind of fully grasps of what he did by just opening this up for so many people to just pop on there and just deal with these things. So it's a wonderful resource that he had, and then but the game itself, Liminal. That's how I discovered the game, the game myself. Instantly attached myself to it. It wasn't, it was very easy read, wonderful game. And like most people, it's like, this is great. It takes in the UK. I'm an American. I'm moving in over here. But it was still with UK people. So I wrote a scenario, not officially published, but, for one of the online conventions, Grogmeet or something, that essentially takes place in New Orleans. It starts in London. It involves a vampire conspiracy, a voodoo conspiracy, and the Sisters of the Ursuline Order. And it attached itself to the. Are you familiar with the story of the Casket Girls of New Orleans? Essentially, these were girls that were brought over by the Order of the Ursuline to come marry men, because there wasn't enough women in New Orleans at the time. So they were brought over, and so these were destitute women, or young girls who had nowhere else to go. But their luggage was brought over in these cases that look like caskets.
Oh, lovely.
And then rumors started to follow, because after they got here, there was a plague. People may have been drained of blood. But my twist is the Order of the Ursuline are actually a secret order of unsanctioned nuns who kill vampires.
Oh, wow.
And I won't spoil the ending, but they still remain active in the famous Ursuline convent there in New Orleans off of there, and that's where the scenario culminates. After they.
That's cool. That is awesome.
I love that.
But it involves a little bit of voodoo, loup garou. They travel through the Fae from the UK to there. And they emerge in the absinthe bar, and
nice.
But then there's the Green Fairy, who is a sister of the Fairy of the UK. She came over a long time ago, and so she's wondering how her sister's doing over there. So yeah, it's one of those things where it sounds fantastic, but it's still just scattershot of ideas. I want to bring it together, put it on paper, and been working on it for some time.
It needs to have a cocktail menu with it, brother.
Yeah. Yeah,
it really does. I'm sorry, that would be awesome. Especially with the Green Fairy in it.
But yeah, so there's not like a Shyamalan twist, but there's a little twist at the end where things change. But I've run it about 5 or 6 times, and we'll continue to run it. I enjoy it, and working on. I have a general idea for after it's done. It takes place. Another thing takes place in Los Angeles. The one thing that I found is. The further you get to the West Coast, a lot of the things that may be associated with the liminal world, folklore and things like that get, a little bit sparse as you get to the West Coast, especially Los Angeles. Until I found out that I had no idea. I don't know if you guys heard about this, but there was actually a rumor, and this was a long time ago. This wasn't, that there was actually a group of underground lizard people that live underneath Los Angeles, and like the days when Mexico had over the land.
Yeah. Nice.
But it's one of those where it's just like you're going down a rabbit hole into a rabbit hole into a rabbit hole to a website where you don't even recognize what is dot pf
dark web.
So it's like anyway, so back to this. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take over the conversation.
Yeah, that's okay.
So you're a big fan of Liminal. So how did you discover Liminal? And and obviously you've put it on your you have 3 in there, and Liminal's one of them. So
I'm trying to remember. Did he kickstarted, or I can't remember how it got started?
I believe he kickstarted it. Yes.
So husband and I kickstarted it and got it. And we're like, well, this is awesome. And one of the things, obviously the subject matter appealed to me. The system was so easy, but what really made the game take off, Buck, that's my husband, ran a game for Wayne and another friend of ours during the pandemic, and we had a great time with that. Yeah. That was modern day.
We played that game for
4 years.
Gosh, 4 years.
Wow.
3 or 4 years.
Cool.
Yeah. Right.
But that was the traditional Liminal set in England. Wayne's character was an expat American, and we all made fun of him, silly American.
I drink coffee, yeah.
Philistine. But what I did with it is I, by trade, I'm a history professor. And so I set it in Victorian Bath.
Oh.
Where at first there were 3 characters. They were all ladies. And it was absolutely freaking hilarious. These 3 crazy ladies running around Bath and environs doing all kinds of stuff. And then another friend said, hey, I would really like to play. And I'm like, well, I have this interesting NPC who's their valet. Would you like to play him? And he just took that NPC and made it his own. And so we've played that game now for at least 4 years, I think.
Wow.
So we've taken a little hiatus because I'm just going to sneak this in here. We're actually working on another game for Kismet. So we've been play testing that a little bit, but I'll let that go right now.
Sure.
And so we have just loved Liminal, and I think one of the things, the the balance of the different types of characters, all the things you can do with it, all the possible rabbit holes.
Yes.
And then the simplicity of the system is something we all have really, really enjoyed.
Yeah.
So it's a great game.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that, Buck and Dee and I are definitely on the Anglophile,
Sure.
side of things. So yeah, I mean, and we've all been to England, and
my master's thesis was on working women in World War I in England. So
very cool.
So, so anyways, there's that as well.
Oh, I get that, because I didn't want them to be Americans with what I was doing. I still wanted to starting. Essentially, it's like the shock and awe of characters in the UK who not only they're dealing with the liminal world, but the United States, which I have witnessed firsthand with friends coming from Gen Con, and this is just Indianapolis, of them going, the hell is this place? So imagine, jumping from New Orleans to California and doing that cross country thing. So yeah, it's I wanted to do at least, and that's why everyone that I've had play the characters are always from the UK. To get that kind of, general idea.
I would love to. He doesn't have does he have a license, open license, or is it still, it's all his, isn't it?
It's, as far as I know. I know that there's maybe a bit of talk about it before, because I don't know if you're familiar with Sue Savage. She's done some writing for them, and she's a big proponent of Liminal, and she's probably one of, she does writing. She's contributed to the Casebook and other games. Yeah. But she's not officially, but most of her games that she runs are horror games. So it's cult, Liminal. It's she's a fantastic GM, fantastic writer. But I think Sue had asked him at one point in time in the past, like on a social media thread or something. So I'm not 100% certain. I know the next one that they're coming out and playing with, I think, is dealing with the Fae Court over there.
There we go.
I could be wrong, but yeah. So there's I assume you guys have the other books, the Werewolves of. I always say Werewolves of London, but it's something else. There's the Casebook, and then there's the Pax Londinium, all good stuff. But Paul's he's a math professor, so he's got a full-time job, and he's got his other games that he works on too. Plus he's running the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay campaign, Enemy Within, for me and a few other people. So that's his damn priority, Paul. So you're not allowed to write until we finally finish this campaign.
That's not an unsmall thing, right? Yeah.
Gotcha.
So,
but
please tell him how much we enjoy the game.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So, well, I hope I didn't take up too much of your time, and I do apologize. I know you wanted to talk about the APAs, but I figured I would much rather have you guys on, and then we can just talk about that and focus, because I would love to discuss that and devote the attention to that. That sounds like great fun. And also, it's a video thing, because I assume you're going to be pulling stuff magically off the side, maybe showing a couple examples and whatnot. So, but
yeah, I could rig up a camera for that if we decide to do that.
I'm saying we're it's when you guys are available again. So we are going to do it, but it's at your leisure whenever it's convenient. So, but no, I just wanted to say thank you so much. Rustwater sounds fantastic. I love the concept and the ideas. I feel that there's some wonderful things going on with it, and some and take the compliment, a lot of talent going into this. It sounds like a lot of fun, and that's hard, when you're dealing with things, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still kind of, a fantasy role-playing game, and those are very hard to kind of push in between the big ones, or the ones who are essentially just recreating it with, beautiful artwork and a torch that goes an hour. Anyways, I mean, I love Shadow Dark, but
I like that game. I
like it too, but I'm just kind of like, I just want to go. It's just an Howard. Anyways, it's just a gimmick. It's fine. It's a fun gimmick, but it's a gimmick. But no, and Kelsey's a wonderful person too. But Rustwater. Everyone, I want you to check in the description. Go ahead and check out the link. It starts at $4 for the PDF, $23 for the full shebang. 22 days left. It sounds like it's a wonderful game. Get it to your table, play it, try it out, and then come back and support their game when the full game comes back to Kickstarter. And hopefully, sometime soon in the future, we'll get the APA out here with you guys and on the Titterpigs podcast. And then much success and much luck in this. I'm looking forward to, you doing what a lot of people dream of is funding that game, getting that physical copy in your hands, and just pat yourself on the back and then go to bed for 3 months once it's all done.
Yeah.
So
thank you. This has been really fun.
You're very welcome. So Dee, where can people find you?
I am on Discord as @AskDNX_. I'm also on the what?
No, that's not.
Okay.
Nothing.
I'm also on the Kismet Discord server.
Mm-hmm.
And my email is askdnx66@gmail.com.
Okay. And
yeah,
Wayne,
you can find all of our link. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, it's all right.
You can find all of our links on our webpage. It's kismet.games.
Okay. Excellent.
So, but all the links to the Discord and to email and what have you. But
any other place you want to tell people where to find you, Wayne, except Saturday mornings making fun of Sean with me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I love that, man. Sean's so great. It's so great. Yeah. Yeah. So, and our Discord and the Gaming and BS Discord is
yes.
Sorry, BS. Oh, good Lord.
BS Landia. I call it
Landia.
Gaming and BS, or just Sean's Corner, whatever.
Yeah, I'm all over that place all the time. Yeah,
Sean's litter box.
Exactly. So again, thank you so much, and of course, all this will be in the description, in the dooley-doo, whatever you call it. For those who see it. Does anyone actually go into the description of a podcast? I don't know anyone who does, but
I do.
Well, I stand corrected. So, but still, I put the information there regardless, so you can find it in there. But as Wayne said, the easiest way is to go to the Kismet website, and there we go. Again, thank you both for coming on. And this has been yet another completely unprofessional interview. Thank you all for watching, and have a wonderful day.